Yo, what's going on? This is the Highly Advised Podcast. I am here and I am ready and I am with my amigos and compadres. As usual, we have Big Cozy, Too Cozy, Saint Kitch, and you have me, Relaxing, NoG_Jackson. This is episode 59, if I am not mistaken. We are here for the people. You know, we have to put on the show and we are going to deliver because that is what we do. We are the best MMA and hip-hop podcast. Hip-hop and MMA podcast in the universe.
There's no creation like us. This is what this podcast that you listen to is similar to the stones that Thanos, it travels the galaxies, goes into different dimensions for. All in one hand, all in two ears, all through one mic. It's like, nah, what's going on, everybody? It's Spence from the Highly Advised Podcast. Like my man said, it's episode 59. We're back here with, like he said, the greatest podcast in the universe, something that Thanos is still trying to look for. So how's it going? Happy new week. You know what I'm saying? Happy June. That's what I'm saying. Happy June to everybody. Episode 59, happy June. What's going on, Lau?
What's up, man? Happy June. Shouts out to all the listeners. Welcome to the Highly Advised Podcast. We got another good episode for the fans, for the listeners. We got some things to go through. So now just start us off so we could get to rocking and rolling. But matter of fact, before we even get to the topics, did you guys have a good week?
Yeah.
Thank you for asking, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Did you guys have a good week? That's good. Uh-oh.
Oh, God.
Go ahead, Spence. That wasn't my iPhone.
Go ahead, Spence.
That wasn't yours iPhone. Wow, listeners. What, did you hear that? What do you know?
Oh, Jesus. Yes.
Guess who got an iPhone?
So, listeners, if you've been listening for a while, you would know that I have an Android and I've had an Android and I had a hard stance on keeping my Android for a long time. And finally, maybe a day or two ago, I gave in and I bought my first iPhone. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't mind it so much. It's not so bad.
Look, I message Nigel, man. At this point, you're welcome home. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Home of the blue messages. You can FaceTime. You can iMessage. Listen, in the event, because you'll never be a broke boy, but in the event you were to become one, right? You know what you could always do? You could take your phone, no service, hook it up to the Wi-Fi, iMessage, FaceTime. You don't even need Instagram. I'm just figuring I'll let you know this. This is not a commercial. We just are just happy for our friend here, our co-host. He's finally stepped into the big boy leagues. Congratulations. If we had some, I wish we could have like a round of applause. We might have to like throw something behind here or something.
Yeah, finally, finally. It was just about time, man. I mean, like, me and Spence, we just got tired of the phone calls dropping and the pixelated pictures that you was trying to send in the group chats. Like, enough was enough. And I think you realized it too. So I just want to say, man, I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. Congratulations on your new phone. And you went all the way to the top, man. That's what I'm talking about. You got the Pro Max, you know what I mean? A lot of these people who be capping off the iPhones and shit like that, they be getting the XR and X Mini and shit like that, real, getting 56 gigabytes and shit. So this way they could be like, I got an iPhone. Nah, they ain't no real iPhone. You better off with a Galaxy. Real.
You gotta chill. I got the 64 gig, bro. The whole time he look at me. When he's talking, he's looking at my picture on here, talking like he's looking straight at me, like, for all those people that got the little iPhones. It's like, come on, man. Let's just be happy that my man's is living in 4K now.
Yeah.
Look, it's a nice phone. I'm not gonna lie.
I was 1996.
But it's a phone. At the end of the day, like, I do what I do on it, and then I'm good. Now, there are certain things I like about the iPhone, which I'm not going to get into because I think y'all have gave it enough praise just now. But I like it. It's dope. It's cool.
Welcome to the team, man. Welcome to the team.
Yes,
now
sir.
you got blue bubbles, man. You can FaceTime. You can FaceTime someone. Like you probably there's certain things that's like even like the minutes, huh?
It's nice.
Hey man, listen, you got a case on it?
Of course.
I wasn't sure. Just don't get one of those like dad cases.
What's a dad case?
Like just a bulky case. We're not gonna name a brand or anything.
No,
I'm just saying like one of those bulky ones that you got to clip to your hip.
Nah. First of all, I'd lose my phone quick. Like I'm the type of person who would lose that shit in a heartbeat. So I couldn't do that. Yeah, no. You know what I mean? Like, but my phone's nice. You know what I mean? If I was like, taking it out and I wanted to like capture like, some nice pictures, let's say if we went to a fight, let's say if we were going to UFC 263 today, I'm about to turn that shit down, then we could actually take pictures of that.
You might want to turn it. You new to the game, so I'm gonna just tell you. There's a button on the side that you can slide down.
There we go.
I'm just serious. You can slide this. There's a button on the side that you can slide down.
So what do you guys?
Well, if you let me finish, I'm just trying to talk, man. Jeez, I'm trying to help you out while talking to the listeners, right? So there's a button on the side that you can slide down, and pretty much it silences everything. So I just figure I'll let you know that because I mean, it's just no different than how I believe that Adesanya is probably going to silence the crowd in UFC 263.
We're getting into something I want to talk about. That's it. Yeah. There we go.
See, I wish you would want to talk the first 5 minutes of the show.
Hey, look, what you think about that fight, Spence? What you think about it? That's what I want to talk about.
Where were you the first 5 minutes of the show? But nah, in UFC 263, we have Adesanya versus Vettori. I have two similar in the same fashion. I think he's gonna go out there and win again, and probably even finish the fight in a quicker time than whenever he did the last fight. Just because, as we know, typically whoever wins the first time, they have a higher probability of winning the second time. And when you're looking at someone like Adesanya, who is on his way to being into a whole nother conversation at his trajectory, I just don't see him losing this fight as he continuously gets better as a fighter. So no discount to Vettori, but that's all I can say about that one. How about yourself?
Well, I think Adesanya versus Vettori 2, the rematch. I think that it's going to be an interesting fight. I actually think that this Adesanya won't finish Vettori. I think this fight will play out a little similar like their first fight, except Adesanya will have a better performance this time, getting the win again. I think Vettori is a tough out for any of the middleweights. I just don't think that his striking is not going to be better than Adesanya's. It's just not.
Right.
And his wrestling, I feel like his wrestling is good against people who are not known for great takedown defense. And I'm not saying Adesanya is some defensive wizard when it comes to wrestling or grappling, but I think that he's good enough to know, okay, Vettori is going to try to take me down. So I think that Adesanya is going to do enough to keep it standing on the feet. If he does happen to get taken down, I think he'll be able to get back up. The people that took him down are good, or these are good wrestlers. You know what I mean? So it's not like he's just a walk in the park and you could just score takedowns at ease. No, Adesanya is not that bad when it comes to takedown defense. It's just that I think that with this fight right here, it's just going to be Adesanya kind of dictating, imposing his will a bit. Vettori's going to be able to get some shots off. He might land a takedown or two. I just don't see him dominating this fight. I just don't. I see Adesanya winning a decision. He might lose a round, but I just see Adesanya taking it again. And then he'll move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, me personally, I'm gonna fall more in line with Spence on this one and say that I think that Adesanya finishes the round within rounds 2 and 4. You know, personally, like I think I don't know, as it looks like Marvin Vettori, or what his name's Marvin Vettori, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure it was Marvin or Martin. I didn't want to mess it up, but I think, he's improved, but I think Adesanya has, just improved as well over time. And I think that his skill was already better than his enough to win in the first fight. And I think this time he might actually have enough like to go in there and actually finish him. I think for whatever reason, it seems that if whatever's portrayed in the media is to be believed, that Marvin Vettori thinks he's going to go in there and emulate this takedown, style that he thinks will win the fight, similar to what Jan did in the later rounds of the fight that Izzy just had. But the thing is that I think that Marvin doesn't have the striking of Jan. I think his striking is worse, like for sure. I think his wrestling is worse for sure. I think that while he is a skilled fighter for sure, and he's proven that over time, I just don't think that he'll go in there and actually pose enough of a threat in order to get out of those rounds. So, that's just the way I see the fight going. And it's actually the first time I really kind of want Izzy to win as well. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that is a first. That is a first.
Jeez, man. You gotta get the hate about your heart, man. You got an iPhone now. You gotta be feeling.
I got a little hate in there. I got to get it out, man. You're right.
Yeah, the ultimate hill, man.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, same here. Also here for Figueiredo versus Moreno too. Knowing that fight was, I believe that last time they fought was a draw, correct?
Yeah. It was brutal draw due to the disqualification from Figueiredo when he like kicked Moreno square in the private area, and he lost a point off of that. And so a lot of people think like, hey, if he didn't lose that point, he was going to walk away with the win. But of course, the UFC is doing the immediate rematch. I think Moreno did well in their last fight, and I'm actually choosing him to win in the rematch. I think it's going to be a decision. I don't know if this fight is going to be action-packed as their last fight, because their last fight was pretty action-packed. But what I will say is I think Moreno, he could utilize his boxing. He could definitely stuff Deiveson Figueiredo's takedowns. Deiveson Figueiredo, he's kind of like when it comes to wrestling, he's more like he's like a tank. It's not like it's like strength over technique type of deal with him. But with that being said, though, Figueiredo striking is there. He definitely got the knockout power, and he definitely is durable too, because Moreno was cracking him, and Figueiredo, he was eating it. So it's going to be a good fight. I just think that Moreno's boxing is going to give him the advantage in the rematch.
It's going to be interesting to see this fight because, like, if you know the background of the fight, last time they fought, they both only had 3 weeks prior to their title fight. So, I mean, when you put that in consideration, Figueiredo, who had to cut weight and usually cuts a decent bit of weight to get down to that weight, could possibly have a totally different fight or just look a little different in comparison to that fight with 2 weight cuts in such a short span. I think it's going to be interesting to see this fight. I think Brandon Moreno looked a little bit more technical, like I was saying, and that would make me want to go in his direction because as well he could look different because he also had to make that same weight cut. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see them go against each other. This fight's actually really hard to call. If you watch the first one, it was very close. I'm gonna go with Figueiredo only because I think that he has more of a chance to put the lights out early, and I think that he is skilled enough to actually do it. He's not. While he can brawl, he also is a technical fighter. And I think it's just going to be interesting to see it play out. He also has a chance of being finished as well if Brandon Moreno can catch him the way he was trying to in the first few rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think you both make very interesting points. From a technical standpoint, I think Moreno has a better chance. But at the same time, similar to what you're saying, if it's the thing of being a champion and also knowing, hey, I can use this power, but at the same time, knowing you can use your power while also learning from your previous mistakes from in this first fight with Moreno. So I think I'll give it to Figueiredo just because I think he'll have a chance to, though there's so many other circumstances that impacted the last fight. It's something for a champion to know, like, hey, the fight was close, or just knowing as a fighter, hey, the fight was close. and I know what I need to fix on to improve myself. It does make it a hard fight to call from what I'm hearing, but I'm leaning with Figueiredo on this one.
That's
So
fair enough. I mean, how are you feeling about the third fight after that? You know, the one of the big 3 fights on the card.
yeah,
The people's main event.
The people's main event. There you go. See, couldn't have said it better myself.
yeah, they need to hire you, man, for real, for real. They ain't call this, man. Nah, I got I think I'm interested to see how this fight turns out. I think because it's what UFC 263 is this weekend, correct?
Yeah, that's this card that we're talking about.
Yeah. Know what it was? I got myself mixed up because I was reading something that said August. So for some reason, I think I'm gonna go with Leon Edwards on this fight. It's just a safe bet. I think definitely as a fighter that's been more active, especially. Yeah, so I think him going against Nate Diaz, who hasn't fought in a while. I think it's going to be. I think I have a hard time believing that. Granted, there's this whole magical term of ring rust that some people believe in and some people don't believe in. But at the end of the day, I think a fighter that's just been out the ring for a long enough time, and in comparison to someone that's been more active, I just don't see that. I just don't see that fight going any other way. So, how about yourself?
I think Leon is going to spank the guy from pillar to post. I think Leon he's better. Obviously, he's better on the feet. And wrestling wise, I don't think he's going to have any trouble with Diaz. I think the only trouble that he'll have with Diaz is it may be cardio if Leon blows his load within like the first 2 rounds. And if Leon happens to get his back hot, if Diaz is able to catch his back and get on his back and slap on a rear naked choke or threaten it or whatever. But I think Leon is smart enough not to be put in that position. I don't know if that fight will ever go to the ground because Leon, he's only going to wrestle if he needs to wrestle, but he's a stand-up guy. Diaz, same thing. Diaz, he likes to box. He doesn't like to really grapple. He only grapples to choke you out if you're a guy that wants to take him to the ground. I mean, look at the first Conor fight. Remember, Diaz hit him with like a knee, and then Conor went for a takedown, and Diaz capitalized on it and choked his ass out. So Nate, he likes to box, and I just think that Leon is the wrong guy to box against because Leon now he's going to box, but he's going to kickbox, and he might do other shit too. And he's not telling right now. Leon is it should be him versus Usman or him versus Covington. It should not be him versus D. Honestly, man, I'm gonna be real. I'm picking Leon to win. I think Leon gets a late finish or he'll get a dominant decision. I really think this is a mismatch, and I think people are kind of like hyped on Nate, and I get it. Nate Diaz, he's one of the most popular guys in MMA, combat sports, period. But I think this is a mismatch for Nate Diaz, man. I don't see Leon losing this at all.
I think that Leon Edwards takes it. I think that similar to what Spence was saying, I think that over time, Nate Diaz just hasn't been very active. And not only that, if you've watched his last few fights, he hasn't necessarily been looking better, and that's no, disrespect to him or anything like that, but he fights like maybe every other year, you know what I mean? And like isn't looking good in every other year. He's only getting older. Leon Edwards is hungry. He's right there next to a title shot, essentially. Like he's not coming in there to play. I don't think he's going to really necessarily play the games of like, sitting there and get smacked around by Nate. I think that Nate's going to come there and he's going to be competitive in this fight. But I think that Leon Edwards takes a dominant decision. That's what I'll give him for this one.
But I'm not sure if you guys also heard. I actually missed the first episode, but UFC 29, not UFC, but Ultimate Fighter 29, the first episode.
Yeah, he didn't miss much. It wasn't a lot of anything. And shouts out to the UFC for putting out the Ultimate Fighter. And, I watched it, and I think it's dope that they're doing it again. But, not a lot happened. Some people moved in. There was a fight. No doors were broken, but Alexander Volkanovski had a very long jersey that caught the eyes of a lot of people. And if you saw it, you would think he was like, had like the jersey dresses back on from the day, like, you know, maybe 2006, early Soldier Boy shit. You know what I mean?
Like all the way down to like the knee type of jersey.
It's a longer jersey. Let's just say that. You have to look at it. Maybe we can get a picture for the listeners one day.
So I was thinking about this Ultimate Fighter thing, right? I agree with Nigel. I think shouts out to UFC for bringing it back. I think it's cool for the UFC to do that. I actually like when boxing was kind of doing something similar. Yeah, the Contender. I think that's dope. You know, it brings more eyes to the sport. But what I will say is the UFC has the Contender series, right? Where you have guys who are like 3-0, 4-0. Hey, you might have some guys who have 10 or 12 professional fights, but you could tell they're not at a high level. So they go through the Contender series hoping for a shot. I was telling Nigel what would make the Ultimate Fighter a bigger show is if they took amateurs, guys with no professional fights, and be like, hey, do you really want to be a fighter? And really highlight the Ultimate Fighter tagline. Like, these are guys who are amateurs. If they're not amateurs, maybe they're just guys off the streets who just been training in a gym and they're trying to compete in the show. And then the winner of the show, they get a UFC contract and they'll have their first official professional fight in the UFC. Not these guys who are 3-0, 4-0. Who I don't know. I'm just thinking of kind of like a narrative standpoint. But as far as the first episode go, it wasn't like blow your mind. It was just like I'm not gonna lie, the first episode wasn't the best episode I could have thought of for a pilot episode. So we'll see. I'll watch episode 2, and hopefully episode 2 things pick up. We'll have a better fight. But the first episode was just kind of like meh.
What I will say is that the fight that happened in the first episode, the guy won a pretty dominant finish. He went in there. He finished the dude. You know what I mean? But it's when I think about it now that I'm replaying it in my head or whatever. It was kind of like he didn't really do much of anything. The other guy kind of was in there. You know what I mean? And then he finished him in the second round with what they thought they were going to finish him with, which was a ground game.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot of action on the feet, and it didn't start picking up until I forgot the gentleman's name, but when the one with the beard took down the YouTube guy because he said he learned everything, all his fighting and everything from YouTube.
What?
3-0 off of YouTube, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Shout out to him for that. That's something.
Man, you would think he was Logan Paul or something. Or maybe that's who needs to train Logan Paul moving forward, if anything.
No, I don't think so. Right. So did you guys see the fight last night at all?
Yes, I saw the fight. I definitely saw. I ended up seeing the fight. Yeah.
Nigel, you seen it, right?
Yeah, I saw it.
All right. So here's my take on it. Do you guys want the good stuff, or you want the bad stuff first?
Go ahead. I want the bad stuff first. I like to hear
whatever's on your
game.
heart. Whatever's on your heart the most.
So whatever is on my heart the most is good news. Really?
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, but let's start with the bad stuff since Nigel said the bad stuff. So it's I think this further proves why people consider boxing to be a sham these days. And I actually was on social media, and there was actually, believe it or not, there's people that were like, yo, pro wrestling is more real than boxing these days. That's a fucking problem. There should never be a consensus of that when pro wrestling is publicly known as, hey, this is scripted fighting. So, and it's boxing's fault. It's boxing's fault that the arguably the greatest boxer of all time is able to run away with $20 to $30 million plus more against a guy who's 0-1 professionally, who's never fought a real boxer, and he was able to get a fight with Floyd. Now, no fault on Floyd, and now this is that'll be a positive take. I just think that the thing is, more people are talking about Logan Paul and Jake Paul fighting exhibition bouts or non-boxing bouts in the sport of boxing. I see like boxing purists are like, oh, this is great because it brings eyes to the sport of boxing. No, it doesn't. It's bringing eyes to, hey, I'm going to see Logan Paul, Jake Paul get their ass whooped. And after their time is up in the sport, whenever these promoters can't suck any more money out of it, people are going to disperse again. Because guess what? That's all they're talking about. Logan Paul, Jake Paul, and Floyd when he occasionally wants to come back to do his thing. They're not talking about Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao, which is happening in August. They're not talking about Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder 3, which is happening next month, right? They're not talking about Canelo and who's the fucking guy he's about to Caleb Plant. They're not talking about that, those are 3 elite level boxing championship matchups that are gonna. Why do you say 2? Oh, Fury, Wilder, yeah, okay. Yeah. But it's the best fighting the top competition. to be polite and mildly about it. I get what Spencer's saying, right? But what I was trying to say is like nobody's talking about the actual boxers. They're talking about 2 guys from YouTube who aren't fighting real boxers, and Logan, who just fought arguably the greatest boxer, and the exhibition bout that he got carried through. And I'm not hating on Logan for this because all 3 of us would do this. Hey, we could scam our way to $20 million fighting the elite of the elite. Whether we win or lose, we're going to win because we're going to come out multimillionaires, more eyeballs on me, not the sport of boxing, if you could call it a sport anymore, me. And I'm going to keep doing this until I'm like, I can't do it no more because the cat is out the bag. So I feel like that's the negatives right there. The negatives is like, this is not really great for boxing. It's just entertainment. Floyd kept saying it. Hey, I'm retired from boxing, but I'm not retired from entertainment. So here's the positives now. Shouts out to Floyd because he was able to, what he said, get away with legal robbery, highway robbery. He scammed everybody. So if he paid your hard-earned $50-$60, good job, buddy. You deserve to lose that fucking money because anybody with common sense could have told you this is not the way to spend your money. But anyway, good on Floyd for, once again, scamming people out of their money and making multi-millions off of it. Shouts out to Logan Paul because not only he was in cahoots with Floyd and scamming people out their money, at least he lasted 8 rounds with Floyd. Yes, Floyd carried him, and Floyd carried him, and obviously we're talking about old man Floyd, who came in at the heaviest ever because he obviously didn't take this very seriously. But shouts out to Logan, though, for a guy who's never boxed and a real boxer who went in there with an old, smaller, less athletic Floyd, and he stood in there for 8 rounds. I looked at it as a glorified sparring session. I looked at it as a glorified sparring session, and kudos to Logan for being able to stay 8 rounds and not fold up like a lawn chair. Now, I'm not going to hate on his performance because I'm kind of like, look, man, how can he hate on his performance when Floyd didn't go to handle his business? Floyd could have trained like he was fighting Canelo again and knocked out Logan within the first 3 rounds easy. Floyd didn't do that. Floyd, he carried that fight for the whole 8 rounds to give people a show, as he loves to say lately. That was all Floyd's doing. So we can't get mad at Logan for trying his absolute best just for, to Floyd to do what he did. Floyd was in total control of the fight. I just think that, unfortunately, he played everybody again. He didn't play me. He probably didn't play you guys, but he played the people that were hoping to see him knock Logan out very quickly.
That's why we can't really be like overly upset because it's like it's a scam, but we were not scammed. So it's like, to us, it's just entertainment. We watch it all go on. Like, yes, 40-year-old Floyd went and fought Jake Paul and essentially had, like you said, a glorified sparring session. Can't be mad at that. He got paid millions of dollars for it. Can't be mad at Logan Paul. He got paid millions of dollars for it and went in there with one of the greatest of all time. Not only that, like, it's possible that he probably could have got dropped and or knocked out, but he didn't. And it's like, you don't have to necessarily be going the hardest on somebody to do that. People get knocked out in practice all the time, and I don't think they're necessarily trying to go out and do that. Sometimes shit just happens. So I'm not necessarily mad at either of them. Me personally, like, I don't really care to see anything, past this. Like, I'm sure that Floyd will manage, because he hyped this up through his brother, to use it again to fight his brother for more money after he fights Tyron Woodley, who doesn't look to be playing around, not to skip up, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? So, like, I think that this whole thing is interesting, and I'm not necessarily mad at either of them, but it's just congratulations for making money and scamming a lot of people. I ain't buy that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say it's, to me, at the end of the day, I subscribe to this as entertainment. I don't subscribe to this as like boxing. To me, it wasn't this wasn't even like a scam, personally. To me, this is, because to me, at the end of the day, it's, if we are just being humanly honest with ourselves, right? We're at the brink of going into the summer of 2021 after being cooped up in a house for 16 months, 14 to 16 months, right? Some people want to go outside. Some people want to stay inside. Reason for why the playoffs are the way the playoffs are in the NBA, the way the whole element of sports has changed. And I think right now, this is just like I said before, like a couple episodes ago, take away the death out of celebrity death match. This is what this is at the heart of it, right? When you take the death out of celebrity death match on MTV, that's exactly what this is, where you have just the two uncharacteristic people fighting each other. Floyd did carry him. I will agree there. I mean, I didn't expect Logan Paul to do anything crazy. I think more or less it was just a story that was used to hype this fight up. I mean, Floyd is the king of pay-per-view at the end of the day. He's the king of pay-per-view. He's the king of knowing how to attract the crowd. So at the end of the day, I feel like someone like Floyd, I don't even knock him for it, because there's so many other things that could be happening, or he could be doing. He could be trying to actually train like he wants to fight Canelo or whoever, and probably get his head knocked off just because he's too old to fight another professional fighter. But all in all, I think it was an entertaining fight. Floyd definitely carried him. I think Floyd probably could have knocked Logan Paul out earlier, but even similar to the prescription that Floyd was giving, Logan Paul was grabbing him a lot. Like, and you could tell at some point it was just like, yo, I can't. When he was getting hit, he was like, yo, I can't believe I'm really fighting this fight. I feel like the only person that loses in this whole thing is a person that like really like drunk the Kool-Aid, to be honest with you. Like, if you didn't drink the Kool-Aid, even if you bought the fight, just because you wanted to watch something for entertainment purposes, like, there's nothing wrong with that. But anybody that drunk the Kool-Aid out that was not in Logan Paul's camp, and I mean, when I say that, I mean like people like Jalen Love, right? Nobody like an actual fighter. I don't know if you guys saw, but Zab Judah, he did an interview with Vlad, and he said he was actually in the training camp with Logan Paul. And he told one, you know how Vlad breaks it down into parts, right?
Yeah.
Part one, he's like, oh yeah, Logan Paul, I trained with him a little bit, showed him some things. He looks like he's built like a young Muhammad Ali. The second part of that, and the second part, right? He says, he's like, so do you think Logan Paul can win? He was like, nah. He's like, there's like he's like, everybody has a puncher's chance, but he's not beating him.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, if you were one of those people, listeners, and I hope to God you weren't, but if you were the one that drunk the Kool-Aid, you got to use your common sense and, wrap this around your little pea brain.
Yeah, you got to chill. He's steadily insulting the listeners.
The narrative they were trying to sell was like Logan Paul's bigger, younger, agile, da da da. I'm like, but the skill gap was there. I mean, if the fight between Floyd and Conor didn't show that example of the skill gap, then I don't know what could show you anything. Like, so I just look at it like Spence said, if you drunk the Kool-Aid, shame on you. Matter of fact, I scratched that. Good job, because you deserved it. You deserve to lose your money. So I'm not mad at this as some people was. I don't think the fight was entertaining at all. I thought it was boring because I felt like Floyd was trying to fight Logan at some point, but Logan just kept on clinching up with him, and I think that he was really exhausted, and that's why he kept doing it. They got to find out a way to because in boxing, you're not supposed to really clinch and this and other. They got to find a way to penalize fighters for doing that so many times. Because like if you find a way to penalize a fighter for clinching a whole lot, like you just nonstop clinching like Logan was, they'll stop doing that shit because they're gonna be like, oh shit, I'm losing on the scorecards because I keep clinching.
You can lose a point for it. It's just hard. It's kind of hard to make someone lose a point for it, I think, because like there have been cases. Rare cases in boxing where like someone loses a point, but I mean,
it's not enforced enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, I mean, more often than not, like typically it'd be depending on the fight, there'll be just a bunch of warnings. I will say this though, out of that whole fight from last night, the best fight on the card, minus the two real fights that were actually on the card, had to be Chad Johnson. I just wanted to mention that, like, great fight. First, I mean, he won the fight. He got knocked down. He definitely got knocked down and did like the little chicken wing thing with his arm. But yeah, I'll definitely say that. Super surprised at how he handled himself. And I'm sorry to whoever the guy he fought was, but I don't think this was his arrival.
Oh yeah, I read that. But shouts out to Ocho Cinco because I'm like, he's a guy. He's already done it, except for winning the Super Bowl, of course. But he's done it all in NFL, star, et cetera, et cetera. And for him to go out and live his dream, do something that he wanted to do, box, good for him. He didn't look that bad. Of course, he looked like he's like still fighting in the hood and shit like that. But shouts out to him because then essentially that was just a celebrity boxing match, exhibition bout, whatever. So
no, that was an actual real fighter he fought though.
Yeah. No, yeah, he fought like a bare knuckle fighter or something like that. No,
but he was like an MMA fighter. I think he like has a pro MMA career, boxing,
his record. His record was like 2-10 as well. So like, so they picked the right opponent for him. Hey, we're going to give you somebody who knows how to throw a punch, but you should be okay to take this guy to school because if I'm not mistaken, he was training with the Charlo brothers. So yeah. So if you're training with champions, hopefully you're doing okay. Hopefully you're doing good. So
facts.
So it wasn't like they threw Ocho Cinco in there with fucking like Terrence Crawford. It wasn't like
that. God.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It'll look like Logan Paul again.
Again. So shouts out to Ocho Cinco. I agree with the fans who thought like, hey, his was entertaining. Good job to him, man. And if he does it again, hopefully they pair him up with somebody who can make an entertaining fight with him. We're not looking for him to be world elite. And he's not coming out to be like, hey, I'm trying to be world elite. So,
yeah, no, I watched it and I actually enjoyed the fight. I think it was dope to see him out there actually doing his thing. Like, I think he, if he really wants to do it again, he should do it again. And he didn't look like he was like in bad condition. He actually looked decent for a guy who's not known for being a boxer. You know what I mean? So shout out to him.
Yeah.
So that also leads into a guy who's also not known for being a boxer, actually fighting somebody that we know to be a former champion. Guys, how do you feel about Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul?
I mean, I'll put it like this. In so many words, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid just because it's Tyron Woodley and not Floyd Mayweather. Tyron Woodley looks like he's taking this fight extremely serious. You would think, and no lie, you would think that this is a fight that you would think this is a comeback fight. The way he's training, the way he's putting things together, even just the intensity of which he takes this fight serious. I will say this: I did watch a couple interviews of his after this fight was announced, and from what it sounds like, Woodley says he does want to come back to the UFC eventually, but he wants to compete in boxing for a couple of years. So I don't know how well that's going to work out for him, but I can definitely say that's probably going to add to why he's taking this fight serious, like it's actually a championship level fight. And so in so many words, I think he's going to do the job that people have been begging for Jake Paul.
The 15 minutes of fame of Jake Paul's boxing career. I think this is it. I do. Like Tyron, he said it best in one of their interviews. I think it's going to be easy because I'm going to train to make sure that it's easy. And when
God.
And when he said that, I was like, oh, he is serious. I don't see Jake beating Tyron. I don't. I'm not going to be one of those people be like, oh, first round knockout. No, I don't see that happening. I do see Tyron beating Jake though. Will it happen in a knockout? If it does, cool. If it's dominating performance, I'll be even more happy with that. Just to show like there's, when you actually, there's levels to the shit. So like, I'm rooting for Tyron. I think Tyron could get the job done as long as he continues to take it serious, which it does seem like he is. And once Jake loses this, man, his 15 minutes of fame is up. I'm not saying his boxing career will be over because like he could always reenact his rematch clause. Apparently, there's a rematch clause, but he could always fight some other joke of a fight. But I think once he gets beat by Tyron, the narrative would be like, hey, you see what happens when you put him in there with a real fighter. So Tyron just got to do his thing in August. He does his thing in August. I think everybody's going to be like, you know what? I'm gonna listen to his rap album that he dropped.
I think as I was watching like the media press conference that they were doing, I think that Tyron Woodley's not really going in there to play the same games that some of these other people have played with Jake Paul. And, Jake Paul, I got to say this, like between the two Paul brothers, I just find it to be interesting how he puts himself in the narrative of these fights that are going on. Last night, oh my God, my brother, he beat Floyd Mayweather. Logan Paul's actually in the ring saying, hey, it was an honor to share the ring with one of the greatest of all time, at least sounding humble in the moment. Meanwhile, you got dudes just yelling outside of the ring. So it's like, to me personally, like you know what it is. And Tyron apparently knows what it is too. And he's not having that shit, it seems like. I'm interested to see that. So, for that part of it, I'm happy about it.
Yeah. So I got a question. So because of the high level of interest, are you going to pay for this fight? Oh, okay. I was going to say, if you're paying for the fight and the fight doesn't end in the first 2 rounds, you've drunk the Kool-Aid, my friend.
Yeah, I'm not giving crooked ass Steven Weasel Espinosa any money.
Yo, you gotta chill. You gotta chill, man.
for Showtime boxing. You know what I mean? Like, and I get it, to Steven Espinosa's credit, he runs a better tight ship than the other crooked organizations, but he's not putting on the greatest fights in either. So I'm rooting for Tyron. I think Tyron will get the job done, but I'm not throwing my money towards no Showtime pay-per-view. Now if this was UFC such and such ESPN Plus, hell yeah, man, I'm gonna turn up to that, but not no crooked ass Showtime.
Nah, I feel you. I mean, I won't call him crooked, but I'll definitely say this. I'm not paying for this. I don't see me paying for this. I'll probably catch the highlights. I do think I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Paul finds a way, if they find a way of feeding us what we believe and running off on the plug again. And because I mean, at the end of the day, I do think Tyron Woodley is going to take this fight serious, but I think at the same time, I know how not even it's entertainment. So we all know how the corruption of entertainment can be. So I do believe that I honestly, I'll put it like this: I do believe that Jake Paul will find a way of having this fight in early, in a way where he doesn't lose the fight, but he doesn't win the fight. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, after the first round, he's gonna be scared to go leave his corner. And all honesty, like you're not fighting someone that's a has been, or I don't even want to use the term has been, someone that's an elder in their league. Tyron Woodley's he's in his 30s, but he's not like 45-year-old or 46-year-old Floyd. He's not like he's not like Ben Askren, who was never known for fighting with his hands, and he was already at the end of his career.
Coming off hip surgery.
Yeah, coming off of hip surgery. It's not even like Nate Robinson, who was probably just chilling in the crib and got a call the day before, like, hey, you want to fight this kid, Jake Paul? So like, I don't see him leaving his corner after the first round. I think he will be scared, but I think they'll find a way of making this fight end early without him losing. And like you said, the rematch clause. So, but it's all nasty.
I mean,
I'm here for it though.
My last thing is like when Tyron wins, and hoping that he wins, I don't think Jake will make the rematch clause. I don't.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. I think he'll fight somebody else. Because, like, let's be real. Like, he said it in prior interviews. Hey, I'm not going to fight somebody that's out of my skill level. I'm going to fight people who I think is within my skill level. So he probably thinks, like, fighting Tyron is going to be a good step up of competition for him, not realizing, like, hey, man, Tyron might be too much for you at this point. And then when he gets beat by Tyron, I don't see him jumping back to Tyron. I just don't. But that's just what I think and what I feel.
Outside of like just like the feeling of knowing like someone going into a sport, someone like Tyron Woodley at least saying that he does want to go into the sport nonetheless, though we all know he's probably going to beat Jake Paul pretty bad. I believe actually when this drops, Clarissa Shields she'll be fighting her first UFC, well, not UFC, but mixed martial arts fight. So how, like, any thoughts on that?
I think this is amazing. I felt like boxers should get into MMA who want to, challenge themselves. And I'm not talking about like your elite guys like Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, and Keith Thurmans, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not talking about them, but I'm talking about like the guys who are like maybe mid-tier or low-tier guys. Like, boxing's not working out for you, or you're not getting the push that you think you should get. Come over to MMA. You're going to get recognized. And look at Clarissa Shields, the greatest woman boxer of all time, according to some people, and double undisputed champion in 2 different divisions. She holds like 8 belts currently, and she's not being paid millions at all, and it's crazy. Every time she fights, media's not covering her, but she's the greatest female boxer today right now. So her coming over MMA, she said like she's received a lot more attention, a lot more eyeballs on her, and more people are going to pay attention now as the first boxer in their prime, not counting James Toney because he was out of his prime, but first boxer in their prime to come over to a notable MMA organization in the PFL and try their luck out at it. So I hope she does well. I feel like she's doing she's going about it the right way. I'm not familiar with the young lady that she's fighting. Even the young lady she is fighting, I think she's like 3-5, something like that. So she does have experience. So hopefully Clarissa, she could go there, do her thing, and win or lose, I'm gonna, give her kudos for at least stepping over to the game.
Yeah, I think it's super dope that she's doing it. I'm excited to see her fight and at least get in there and see what it's about. I'm not mad at her coming over. I think that she's doing it the right way. PFL is a good league. I think for MMA organizations, it's actually one of the better ones. That being said, I'm not overly familiar with the chick she's fighting. I think that it's going to be fun to see her just try out a new thing. And honestly, she's probably just going to go in there and I would assume try to keep the fight on the feet. So I'm not too mad about that.
Yeah. I agree. I think she will probably try to keep the fight on her feet as best as she can. But at the end of the day, as we all know, like she's a fighter. She's the number one in what she does. And she's leaving what she does while being number one to go over into another sport. I wish her nothing but the best. Hopefully when this podcast drops on Thursday that she will be fighting that same night, I believe. So yeah, make sure you guys check it out tonight to watch her fight. So, but yeah, other than that, I wish her nothing but the best. It does seem like this may be, if she does well, I'll say, and I think this may be like we may end up seeing a career shift for her, just because if at the end of the day, if you're getting more attention, even if she's fighting people that aren't at the same level at the same level as championship level martial artists, mixed martial artists, yeah, I think she may end up just taking that route because she's going to make more money and garner more attention, and this will probably help her fighting career as well. So, within the ring of boxing, so I don't know. It's going to be a lot more. I think we'll have more to say about it when it comes up next week, after the fight happens, and we speak about this next week. So, but outside of just that, I know there are possible fights that could have taken place due to some of the fans in the NBA. I'm not sure, guys, if you had seen, but Russell Westbrook, for instance, when he was walking back into the locker room and fans, I think, threw popcorn on him. And then there were other players throwing and spitting and all type of things like that. Have you guys caught any of that stuff so far? Because it's kind of crazy from what it looks like.
So it was definitely a topic the past week where fans during these playoff games doing like nonsensical things, doing very rude things, to be honest, to these players of opposing teams. And the Russell Westbrook situation and Kyrie getting a water bottle tossed at him. And I'm not the biggest Kyrie fan, but I think I was like, yo, that's fucking wrong, I just feel like fans, yes, they pay their hard-earned money to show up to these games, to cheer, boo, talk shit to the players. But I think what's off limits is doing anything physical towards the players, meaning throwing shit at them or even touching them like in harmful ways or inappropriate ways, or saying shit like calling them racial slurs or prejudice things. I feel like if you're a fan doing that, then that private organization that's hosting that game have the right to ban you for life, because what you're doing is you're contributing to an unsafe environment now. Because what a lot of these fans don't realize is these players are human beings too. They're not fucking dogs and chickens that you see at these fucking illegal chicken fights and shit like that, and you could just treat them like shit. No, they're gonna be like, look, you could say what you want about me and the team, about how we suck and we should lose, but you're not going to be throwing shit at me or calling me fucking N-word this or something like that. And I think the some of those players, they should really watch themselves, man. And you notice the trend of, fans, excuse me, the fans should watch themselves, but you notice the trend of fans that are doing it. And I feel like that they shouts out to the arenas and the franchises that are giving them lifetime bans, They're also arresting them. Now, will they do like life in prison or something? No, they probably won't. But I don't think that's necessary either because that's pretty extreme. But like, yeah, get lifetime ban. If you can't, be civil at a public event where it's supposed to be friendly and stuff like that, yeah, with some banter, then you don't need to be here. So shouts out to getting those guys out of there.
I think Shannon Sharp said it the best when I've heard people talk about it recently. And he was like, you pay for the show. You don't pay for, to go on the court and touch the athletes or whatever the case is. Like, you're not paying for that. So you doing that is too much, just by definition of what you actually came there to do. You know what I mean? So, like, to me, when I see people do things like that, I'm like, hey, y'all got to chill because it's not going to be like, oh, okay, we're just going to let this shit happen 10 times. It's going to be like, hey, we're not going to have people sitting next to the court because some idiot did something. And like, hopefully it doesn't escalate, which I don't think it will. I think, for the most part, I think they do a decent job of keeping people out of these things. But at the same point in time, it's like, it only takes but one person to do something dumb to ruin it for everyone. So it's like, to me personally, when I watch that, it's like funny for a second until it's not, and I think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. Where it more often than not, they should know when you're paying to see a sporting event that it means don't cross the line in terms of being respectful. And a lifetime ban is, I think, probably the most suitable thing for these people who are choosing to make make very poor decisions at these live events. But I do also believe, like, I don't know, I think it's also some people can feel a little entitled based on the money that they're spending. And I think probably being cooped up in the house is no different than it's no different than some of the other things that we're seeing going on so far. But I will say this, that I don't know. I think most of us understand the reality of what happens with these fights. Similar, no different than we all were probably pretty young when it happened. But like with the Malice in the Palace, like I remember, yeah, I remember exactly where I was. And I remember exactly how I found out about it. It's one of those few memories that just are lodged into my brain. So it's like, I remember coming home, seeing that on TV after like coming home from a school dance. And I'm like, what happened? It's like, yeah, they were fighting the fans. So, and it all came from a fan throwing something. So throwing something or saying something, one of the two. But at the end of the day, I think you coming from a space of remembering that and also knowing like, hey, more than likely anybody paying to watch an athlete do whatever they're doing and whatever their respective sport is, more than likely you can't hang with them. So why would you antagonize someone that if under unfortunate circumstances, it became a physical altercation, there's not much you can even, you're putting yourself in harm's way in so many words, whether it's you physically getting assaulted or something worse happens. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think some people have to have class, and I think it's over in a little bit of time. I think this is slowly weed them out. But I mean, you never know. I mean, it's a change of times, as we can tell. Like, this is actually the first playoffs we'll have without LeBron, which is just unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
It's
I believe it.
I'm happy about it.
It's time. It's time to move on. It's time to stop highlighting everything LeBron, Like, this guy, he's at the age now where he can't do it by himself anymore. When AD was hurt, LeBron was like, man, I'm not even going to go hard. I'm going to be professional about it, play, whatever. I know it's over. He knew. He knew.
He walked out of a game.
A lot of people don't like that. I don't give a fuck because I'm like, he knew. He already knew that the nail was in the coffin. So shouts out to LeBron. I think he got one or two more seasons in him. Honestly, I think next year, if he can recruit somebody like Dame Lillard to the Lakers. He's going to probably try to go hard as fuck for one more ring. We just need new faces in the finals, man. It's time. So, yeah, the Lakers are out, and I know me, Nigel, and other people are pretty happy about the shit.
Also, Kawhi's still on there. And a lot of people...
That was surprising.
That was shocking because, what was it, 3-1? Things weren't looking good for the Clippers, and then all of a sudden, Kawhi, you know, he must have been in the locker room like, hey, like, that chill shit's out the window. Like, get the shit together or else I am out next year. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, they started winning games. And now they've moved on to the second round of the playoffs. I'm happy. I'm a Kawhi fan. Shouts out to Kawhi for doing shouts out to the Clippers, excuse me. But I mean, like, they pulled it together. They won the series, and I think that's dope.
Shout outs to Kawhi Leonard. As you could tell, like, he knows his worth. So I think the team also knew. It's no different. Honestly, I would love to see who was it, like Supreme Dream?
Yeah.
I would love to see him because I know he made a skit about the Lakers getting kicked out the playoffs. I would love to see what the back room looked like when it was Kawhi and they're talking to him like, yo, listen, this has to stop. This has to stop or I'm gonna stop coming here. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, we'll find out how serious he was or how serious they take him in the next round. So
and other news, I mean, before we actually started recording, listeners, the Nets were putting a big whooping on the Bucks. Like a whooping.
How bad? Really?
Like we're talking about like 20-point spread plus.
That's why I thought when the Suns beat the Lakers, I was just like, Jesus, like this shit is over. Like,
and so like they're saying Kyrie is breaking Giannis' ankles, going crazy.
They're up 30 points. 65 to 95.
I'm about to watch the highlights.
Going into the fourth quarter.
See, I thought the Nets was going to win this series. I just thought like, hey, man, this may be like a 6-game series because, you know, the Bucks, they're a tough team. You know what I mean? People were expecting them to win the championship for the past 2 fucking years. So with performances like this, you're looking like, man, this might be a sweep or at the most a 5-game series. This is not good.
Yeah, listen, man, Giannis got a double-double. Still no. He has a double-double, but you have Kevin Durant with 32 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists.
Going hard.
Harris, 13 points, 1 rebound, 1 steal.
Fulfilling his duty as a role player.
Blake Griffin, 7 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal.
He dunked on Giannis. Apparently, he went hard on Giannis tonight. I didn't get to see it yet.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to watch this because this is... You don't typically see someone getting blown out going into the fourth quarter of a playoff game, of game 2 of a playoff game, down 30.
Nets are going to the finals, man. They're gonna here's an early crazy pick. Nets Hawk East finals.
Oh God, man, that'd be crazy.
Wow. That would be interesting.
The Hawks are there. Tell you, man, the 76ers and the Hawks, that game 1 was crazy. And I think the Hawks, man, I think they might have the 76ers number.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta give the Hawks credit, man. Them guys, they're ballers.
Oh no, that's a fact. That's a fact. I mean, Trey.
They came to Ice Trey came to win.
Ice Trey the gang, man. Yeah. Listen. And Nick, all I can say is this: I know anybody that lived in New York. I had a friend hit me and was like, "Yo, what's all this thing about this Trey guy?" I was like, nobody in New York likes him right now. The least safest place he would ever feel safe in would be New York City right now, near Madison Square Garden. Yeah. I think this is just another testament to just the change in the tides in the league. I mean, heck, we even saw Devin Booker talking crazy after when they, it's like we're seeing, like he was just talking crazy after they had beat the Lakers. He was just like, you would have thought, I'll put it like this. You would have thought that he was the big dog on campus.
I mean, he was looking like it that night. Yo.
I know.
He was putting shit up like he was.
But you would have been
talking some shit too.
Yeah, The way he was talking, it looked like you would have thought his whole career was the same way.
He must have looked how he played.
Yeah.
Yo, I put like this. Devin Booker, though, he's one of those guys where like when he came in the league, he was good. Now he's really fulfilling his true potential. He has some help in Chris Paul. Plus, Chris Paul could definitely mentor him because Chris Paul has been in the game for a minute. So Devin Booker, he's definitely one of the better players of today, and he may be a great player fucking moving forward. So him beating the Lakers, like beating LeBron, giving him his first round loss ever, that's a statement for Devin Booker, man. So, like, I mean, the talking shit thing, I think that just depends on who you are, if you like it or not. But that night, he deserves to feel like he's the big dog of campus.
Nah, that's a fact. I think well, it'd be interesting to see what more comes from this with him.
Yeah.
Pretty much the main players of the 2010s, LeBron and Steph Curry, like with both of those players being out, so the finals cannot include them. I think this is it just makes for even more of a more interesting, I'll say the least. But I think as the playoffs continue, we'll keep you guys up to date. No real way of transitioning into this. Want to kind of bring up Lil Durk. Lil Durk's older brother D-Thing recently was killed in Chicago, unfortunately. So just from the podcast, we just want to bring up, send our condolences, I'll say, nonetheless. And yeah, it's sad nonetheless. I will say that. But
RIP.
Yeah, RIP. But with that being said, this is actually kind of off the heels of the Voice of the Heroes with Lil Durk and Lil Baby, which was released last week. To me personally, I think it was a good album. It was a good album. I'm still not sure if it lived up to the hype that was surrounded by it, but I did like the album. I know I share this platform with two people that are not fans of Lil Durk and aggressively talk about their hate for Lil Baby and Lil Durk behind when we aren't recording. So before I say any more, I kind of want to give the floor to these guys because we know I started with the love, but I know you guys got a lot of hate on your hearts today. So
go ahead, Nigel, man.
So I don't really hate Lil Durk or anything. I'm just not the biggest fan of his music personally. I listened to the project when it came out, and I was just like, it sounds like the type of music I would expect them to put out first and foremost. I think when I listen to Lil Baby, he just sounds like just an artist that I like more of the two. I heard maybe a few songs that I, liked, like thoroughly that I'll go back and listen to again. Me personally, it's not for me. It's just not for me. It's kind of just average, you know what I mean? But it's not necessarily, it doesn't sound bad. It just sounds like something that I'm not searching for or listening to ever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not my shit. It's not.
It's your currency, pretty much.
I mean, if you want to put it like that, I know you hate him, but I don't hate. I have no hate in my heart.
It's impossible. You can't create this narrative that I hate currency.
You do,
and I don't.
When we were at the currency show, you were in the crowd like you.
I was waiting for Dave.
Stand it.
Because I want
to listen to Dave East. Currency was there like that night, and he was doing his thing on stage. You were like, oh. Like, all
right. Yeah, it was the reason why I had a hard time driving back.
Oh my God, that's we're gonna have to tell a story another day. that was an interesting night. Shouts out to that night.
Yeah, man. Listen, man, I was so tired. I was so tired from the show that I had a hard time. But nonetheless, so like you said though, like you hate Durk, and you're not a big fan of his. You're not a big fan of this album. How about yourself, Lau? What's your opinion? Similar, cool. So personally,
wow. Go ahead, Lau.
Hey man, Spencer, he's the man on this topic. I know. Look, man. So listeners, me and Nigel and Spence, Nigel, Spence, and I, to be, more correct with my grammar, we all have different tastes in music, but we also have similar tastes in music. When it comes to the auto-tune, diehard auto-tune. I'm not an R&B singer because I can't sing. I can't rap, so I use auto-tune. These are Spence's type of artists. And what I will say is like I like Lil Baby. I do. So when it comes, the reason why I listen to the Voice of the Heroes is mainly to listen to Lil Baby. And Lil Durk, okay, cool. But my
Another
verdict,
avid hater.
I'm not an avid hater, but I thought this album sounded like one big ass song. I thought like a lot of the songs sounded very similar. Also, a lot of songs sounded like, hey, we have shit in the vault. Just put this on this project. And if that was never the case, then wow, because I just didn't think this album was that great. There was a couple songs on there that was cool. Like I like that Travis Scott song. That song was pretty cool. But like overall, I was just like, yeah, man, I can frisbee this. This is not something that it's not album of the year as some diehard fans would say. And but to Nigel's point, some people just when they're listening to this is what they're expecting. This is what they like. They like the just the severe hardcore not rapping autotune shit. And shouts out to them because it's going to keep making them money and keep doing it until the wheels fall off. So the Voice of the Heroes is not a favorite album of mine. But believe it or not, I don't think this album is trash. I don't think it's trash. It's just I don't think it's that great.
I don't. Okay.
Go ahead, Spence.
No.
Defend
I
them.
mean, no, it's not even a defending thing. I mean, you guys have your own taste, but I will say this. I mean, personally, I think this was a good album. I think the way we listen to and digest music is just differently. I think that's across the board, even with the same music that we like. Because to me personally, from what I listen to when I listen to Durk, and I'm not the biggest Lil Baby fan. I'm more of a Durk fan, if anything. That was the reason why I was at this, why I came to listen to this album more of. Don't get me wrong, I think Lil Baby's been having like some really great verses this year. I think in the genre that he's in, I think him and Durk make the most sense because they've pretty much had some of the best features this year within their respective genre. But yeah, like, I mean, they had a lot of things. They talked about different things, but I think to me, more or less when it comes to the music is based off, I don't know, to me, I hear, to me, when I listen to the music, I hear the emotion of whatever the artist is trying to get out. So personally, I think it was a good album. I mean, hey, some people gonna love you, some people gonna hate you. And like they always say, like, if you don't have anybody hating you, you're not doing something right. So clearly, Lil Baby, Lil Durk, you got two guys here that hate you very badly. So
and there's also people called sheep. They're just so there's sheep people there too. So like they're just brainwashed and all that. So you have that out there as well. So you got haters and you got sheep. So
I mean, then you have people that have like they're actually the measuring stick of taste. So I mean,
according to people outside of us, they're saying the album was mid. Every song
listen.
So I'm just saying, man.
Listen, bro. I said it was a good album. I didn't say it was a great album. I said it was a good album.
And that's the thing, man. You said it was a good album, and that's okay.
You said it wasn't a bad album, though.
I said it wasn't a bad album. I said it wasn't trash.
What's the opposite of bad?
Good. I don't think it was a good album, but I don't think it was trash. It's not so black and white.
I mean, you can live in a gray area if that's what you prefer. I'm
just saying, like, it's not like, oh my God, like this is going to win the Razzie Award for worst album of the year. No, but it's not. I think the album was overhyped. I do think that a lot of the songs in there sound very similar. There was like a 6 to 7 song stretch where the songs just sounded like the same fucking song. I'm just like, wow, like you could removed all that shit. That could have been a 8 to 10 track project, and it probably would have been a lot better. It reminds me of Waka Flocka's.
Okay.
Listen. His first what was Waka Flocka's first studio album? The one with that had all the hits on it.
Flockavelli.
No. Oh, was it Flockavelli?
It might have been.
So the problem with that album, it was like 20 plus tracks, right? So there was a lot of garbage on there. If Waka Flocka dialed it down to like 12 tracks, it would have been considered one of the hardest trap albums of all time. Because like the first half of that, well, actually I should say half, but like throughout the album, you would hear like, okay, these are the hits that we know. Oh, let's do it. Then it was like,
this was a good ass. I didn't realize the singles off of this. My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit on here.
You talking about Flockavelli?
Yeah. Let's do it.
There's a lot of shit on here.
Heart in the Paint, No Hands, Groove Street Party.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you cut it out to 12 tracks, it would have been like near perfect for his genre of music. And maybe this is the downfall of the voice of the mid. Like it's just so many fucking
Wow.
Yo.
Wow.
That shit's funny.
That might as well be the title for this week, man.
Yeah.
Yo,
man. It was average, man. Like that's just what it was.
In my opinion, right? Because you have your own opinion, and 90% of other people think this mid as well. The 10% think it's album of the year, and I get that, bro.
Yeah.
What I'm saying though is just like it wasn't my cup of tea, and I hope that Lil Baby and Lil Durk, when they put out their next solo efforts, it just crap all over the Voice of the Heroes.
Well, I think I do believe that whatever the solo project will actually be better than the Voice of the Heroes. I will say that I think your math was a little off, where it probably is the other way around. So like I'm quite sure 90% of the people will be even more in store for what's to come from them individually. I do think this was a good album. Not I'll say this much. It made me think of other artists that had albums together that I wish could have stuck together. Just because I primarily it makes me think of NBA YoungBoy and Moneybagg Yo when they did the Fed Babies. But
I remember that.
Yeah, it was actually a good.
That's when NBA YoungBoy wasn't using autotune like that. That's when he was rapping. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fascinating?
I'm so lost at this notion of like this whole thing when it comes to the auto-tune thing, because I think it's plain as day that it's the majority of music, especially today, uses auto-tune. And I think you have more artists even today that we probably came up under that didn't use auto-tune that use auto-tune now. It's just a new sound of music. I think you're kind of just getting to a grandfather stage, bro.
Hey man.
You said it's not the new sound?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I understand why older people are like rap is crap, because they just don't like it. They don't like it, and they have the right not to like it. So shouts out to them old grumpy guys. And if I ended up, even though I'm a young man myself, if I ended up
old
becoming
man features, that's all.
Yeah, young man myself, and if I have this grandpa attitude of like, hey, I hate diehard autotune stricken written albums and projects, then fuck it, so be it. Then I'll wave the flag on that motherfucker, because like to me, I'm just like, I'm not talking about like your Trippie Reds and shit like that, where these guys came out the womb auto-tuning. I'm talking about the fucking guys who I know that they can rap, and they just die hard auto-tuning, and I don't get it. I don't fucking get it. Like, not all of it is bad, and I've said this in previous episodes before. Not all of it is bad. I like some certain artists, but can't listen to a whole album of that certain artist. Like, can we sit here and listen to a whole Trippie Redd album front to back and be like, yeah, every track is hitting? You know what I mean? Can we do that? Be honest with that. And he's one of the prominent auto-tune guys. No. So like when I'm listening to Lil Baby and Lil Durk, guys who don't need to use the auto-tune to rap because they've proven that before. And when they're hardcore auto-tuning everything, it kind of is like, why are they doing this? That's like if we lived in the fucking early 2000s and we hear Snoop Dogg auto-tuning throughout his catalog moving forward. Yes, I understand about sexual seduction and that bullshit album, but like, you know, that's like a one-off shoot, kind of like Lil Wayne's Rebirth rock album, one-off shoot type shit. This is what these guys want to do. Hey, we're going to auto-tune ourselves till we kill the fucking genre of rap music. And that's sometimes I just feel like there needs to be a balance, and there's not, man.
How is there not a balance though? How is there not a balance when for one, this is just the sound of music today. Like you can make the criticism and saying like, oh, this, that, and third. I think it's safe to say the landscape of music, definitely when it comes to like the newer generation of artists, this is part of the landscape of music. Like I think the only street rappers that you really have that don't use autotune at all are pretty much out of Memphis.
Well, what I think Lyle's trying to say was I think he means a balance when it comes to the mainstream and more or less what's promoted to us. Like if you look at like, I would say some of the top artists that are being like pushed in front of us, you know, your Lil TJs and people like that, like they cater to that genre of like that, what's the best way to say it? Like singy rap, I guess. It's not melodic rap is the best way to put it, right? So when it's like that and you have rappers like your Bennies or not even people who are rapping like that, like your Larry Junes, who are actually putting out actual rap music and they're not being put on in the same way, it's just a little odd. And there's not a balance.
Is it odd though? Because it's no different. Is it odd? Because at the end of the day, let's be honest. Who's rap music catered to? Rap music is catered to a younger demographic that's at the mid-teens to early 20s. The music that we hear today that we may not be the biggest fan of is catered to the wider part of the audience. And there's no different than when we listen to Drake and Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole. And when Drake came into the game, people loved him for rapping. And then Drake realized, hey, I have a bigger career with doing the rapping, but also singing. And therefore we heard nothing. It became, every song was a Drake song. Whether it was,
I don't agree with that at all. So every song Kendrick made was a Drake song. When?
No, when did I say Kendrick made the Drake song? I said Drake. I said when Drake was putting out music, he initially came out and everybody loved him for his rapping. Then he started he leaned more into his singing and writing, his singing part. And when he was doing features, every song was a Drake song because he was singing and rapping on it. He was singing the hook and rap on the song. And even people at that time that were probably our age that came up off the hills of 50 Cent when they were in their early 20s and late teens, 50 Cent, State Property, Jay-Z, Locks, whoever, right? They all hated Drake because they said, oh, all he does is sing. He's an R&B artist. But eventually that he still stuck with the same model and he still became successful. And people realize, oh, he's a rapper and this is just part of the genre. Now the genre has elevated itself to now where people are using autotune even more frequently. And at the end of the day, I mean, let's be real. We're the ones to blame for the influence of it to getting this way. At the end of the day. So, I mean, you can't get mad at the offspring. How can you get mad at the offspring of what the best music was genre before? Before.
I mean, you can't get mad at it, right? Because kind of like in basketball, people who are the offspring of flopping and, you know, and faking injuries. But this is the product today that people are still chucking money towards. What I'm saying is like, I hear what you're saying about Drake singing and rapping and people didn't like that shit. You're always going to have people from the previous generation, not like the new generation rappers, right? It's always been like that. It's been like that from the 90s. I mean, the 80s to the 90s guys, 90s to the early 2000s, et cetera.
Even today.
Et cetera, et cetera. But in each of those generations, there was a balance and variety of different type of music that was being pushed to the forefront. Now, today, in the very late 10s and early 20s, what's been mainstream pushed by the industry, and you have all these industry plants out there, hardcore auto-tune rapping. Tell me what song that's made the top 10, top 10 good rap song, not named J. Cole, because we know he's a GOAT, that's been labeled top 10, man, that doesn't have auto-tune fucking rapping in it. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. It's been hardcore fucking auto-tune to the mainstream, where I felt like when people start mentioning actual rappers, kind of like what the Grammys was trying to do with the album nominations, people were shitting on it because people weren't fucking, they were like sheep to the fucking melodic shit, right? People were shitting on Alfredo, and all three of us agree Alfredo was a near perfect album. You know what I mean? And that was real fucking rap. But of course, that didn't do well in sales or compared to like a fucking little TJ bullshit, because people want to hear the bullshit. No, let's be real. Let's be real. I don't have me specifically, I don't have a problem with auto-tune rap. I have a problem with when it's so much of it. You know what I mean? I don't want to listen to West Coast rap music all the time, New York style rap music all the time. I like to blend the shit up. That's why I like rap music as a whole, because if too much of one thing, it does get boring. And I feel like right now what's being force-fed to us is auto-tune rap. You go to DJ Academics, one of the most popular of urban culture music and all that fucking shit. The people, no, I mean, he is. Whether
he's influential, but
yeah.
I mean, I think the way that's going to defend what you're saying is because he's also the not a catalyst, but he is a catalyst in these artists that you dislike, because he's pushed them even from the beginning. He had the same, in that sense, he used the same format similar to Adam 22, where Adam 22 was taking these artists that, in Axe's case, he was using artists that were a little bit higher profile. But okay, you would find these artists like XXX or Trippie Redd or whoever that Adam 22 was doing, interviewing these guys and then saying, hey, I'm going to take them, and before they get popping, I'm putting you on to them. Same thing that Act does. I agree with you there. But at the same time, I think to me, there's so many similarities into what we've seen before. It's just it's the stick has changed, right? Because no matter how much they like to highlight certain things, and we can highlight like, who was the best artist and the balance that there was, more often than not, like, these labels have always force fed us more of what is the popular part of the genre of any music. And typically the popular part of the genre within rap music has never been like, you might, don't get me wrong, you'll have rap, you'll have trap music and street music, but like, you're not it for every Kendrick Lamar that you have, right? And I don't even want to, and when I say that, I don't necessarily mean in terms of celebrity star power, right? But just in terms of talent wise that gets promoted, you're getting probably getting maybe 5 Gucci Mans at that same time. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, or the Migos, better yet, right? You'll have for every Kendrick Lamar, you're getting 5 Futures and Migos. So it's the same thing. It's just now the balance has changed from the music that we once listened to, that we enjoyed, that we would be on the fence with. Because I think if we went back 6 years ago or 7 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, this conversation would have been the same thing, but it would have been the Migos and Future. You know what I'm saying? Versus like the other artists that are coming up. I do understand what you're saying. I just think, to me, it's just a very parallel to, it's no different than what we came up with. It's just we're on the other end of the spectrum now. That's all it is to me.
I just think that back then, more people were more in unison, and the rap music, they're like, yes, everybody's going to have their favorites and everybody's going to have people they dislike. But it wasn't like so divided as it is today. Today is really divided on rap, man. Like, and I feel like the reason why the auto-tune pop sound and rap is so big as it is today, because it's not because of brothers and sisters really tuning in and really supporting a lot of that shit. It's just because of like, hey, this is what the industry is making money off of. So the industry is force feeding everybody to the shit. And I feel like nowadays I feel like I enjoy more lesser known artists, underground artists, than I do at the mainstream level. And I feel like that's like, crazy. I like mainstream artists, some of them, but it's just there's a lot of them that sound very similar, man. They really sound very similar. Like when you cut on a Rod Wave song, he might sound like that one fucking guy from fucking Mississippi who's also auto-tune singing. And we won't know the
Murray?
fuck. I don't know the guy. All I'm saying is like they have similar sounds, country guitar playing shit, singing about pain and emotion in the streets. Like
yo, look at his stats, yo. Look at them. They're rapping about the streets, pain and emotion, but they're not saying anything. I just don't like this. I just don't like it.
I'm not saying that they're not saying anything, but like the songs sound very similar to one another. You know what I mean? It's not different. I think this is why like people like Griselda are sticking out and shit like that, or people like Larry June are sticking out because they sound different. They don't sound if you're talking about like, yes, Larry June, compare him to local West Coast artists, then you could start to hear some similar sounds or whatever like that. But you got to go into that. On the plastered billboard of rap music, it's auto-tune rap. And there's a lot more kind of rap than what is being pushed. And that's why I'm not the biggest fan of it, because it's like, yo, not all of this shit is good, but people are treating it like it's fucking good. And it's crazy to me. It's so crazy to me, man. And that's just my disconnect with it. Like these artists, I know that they're doing what they're doing best to make money, and they think they're making the greatest music. But it's just, since there's so much bullshit, they're getting caught up in the trend of bullshit. And and I know I'm not the only one with it. It turns a lot of people fucking off of this shit.
But I feel, I can understand how it turns people off, right? I totally understand that. But I also think it's in the same breath. I feel like where music is today, I feel like people have less reason to complain. And the reason I say that is because unlike the era that we grew up in, where we were fortunate enough where the internet began to break away, and you can look up somebody on that piff or live mixtapes or hot new hip hop, or Two Dope Boys or whatever, or just whatever the means of finding music through the internet. Like every artist today, anything that you want to listen to is expendable through the power of your phone. If you have Spotify, if you have Apple Music, or whoever wants to pay us, that is a streaming service that would love for us to actually only post them, yes. Right? So, but nonetheless, any streaming service you use, you have the power to curate your own playlist, curate whatever it is you want. I do agree that there is a lot of the popular sound is very much the same. I do agree there, but I think it's just, to me, I just look at it as no different. It's just a different step in the genre. Like it's no different. It's just no different than a step in the genre nonetheless. Cause it's like looking at 07 well, actually, I think we'll save the rest of this conversation for another day.
Yep.
Because because on the heels of everything that you've said, I just know you better have listened to this Peter Rosenberg album that he released, this compilation album that he released, where he had I think the album was called Real 8, and it has like West Side Gun, Styles P, Wu-Tang, all the rappers that you would thrive and love because of your dislike for the singing, songwriting.
Listeners, I like connoisseur rap. I like rappers talk about fly shit, street shit, drug dealing shit without no auto-tune in it, motivational, positive shit. You know, I'm a positive guy. I'm a success story. This is real life shit, and this is not a gimmick. So I enjoy rappers who have great mannerisms to them in the game and proper etiquette, not about, drinking pints of lean and 12 packs of fucking promethazine. So yes, I did listen to Real 8. you know, and
as if these rappers don't say anything in the same way. He just said Westside just knows how to say it in a cooler way. That's all.
So I liked Relate. I thought Relate was pretty solid. And the album of the year, no. But what I will say is it's a solid piece of work. It had some good songs. You could tell this was like a passion project for Peter Rosenberg, kind of like grab a bunch of people that he was cool with and be like, hey, you mind hopping on this thing for me? Do me a solid. And there were some good songs on there. One of the songs I liked the most was the one with Ghostface Killer on there. That song was dope as hell. So
and he had a good verse.
Yeah,
Ghostface killed that. Yeah,
I had Crime Apple on there too.
Yeah, shouts out to Crime Apple. I've been fucking with his music recently, and I listened to it a little bit, but I actually listened to more of the LLoyd Banks album that came out, The Cost and the Inevitable. And I'm actually really fucking with his project. I haven't been keeping up with LLoyd Banks as he's been putting out music, but this album in particular, I actually enjoyed quite a bit. He was rapping. He was also like, there's some solid verses on there. Like the beat selection. I mean, if you're not into that type of music, I can see why you wouldn't like it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it personally. I think that's what I've been listening to the most actually over the past few days.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely can agree there. I did not listen to Real Late. I have to check it out based off the review Loud gave. I did have a chance to listen to the LLoyd Banks album, and I will say it's been a couple years since he's dropped his last album. And Banks sounds good. Sounds like Banks hasn't lost a touch. Really had to grapple with like, oh, this is like actually someone from a different era of music. So it was just adjusting my ears back to what I grew up listening to. So it was great great listening to it. I definitely keep the project in rotation. Funny enough, actually, it was because I know he did a project with, what was the album called? It was a project he was working on with, what's his name? Ransom. And this is actually a project I ended up finding it, and I believe we posted it earlier last week. But it was a album called Crime Scenes that came out this year. I think it came out like a couple weeks ago, possibly, or maybe a couple months ago. But earlier this year, he had an album come out called Crime Scenes, which is really good as well. I suggest people go check it out. Between that and the LLoyd Banks album, that's primarily what I've been playing, and The Voice of the Heroes. So
you had to throw your boy in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's diversity, right?
Spencer's right. It is diversity. It's balance and variety. Shouts out to Ransom though. The dude he could for real rap. So
yeah, no, that's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a headline with, I guess, where the current president is looking at extending school up to 16 years. Before you guys give your opinion on it, because I did actually look into it. So ideally, what Biden's looking at is adding 2 years earlier for a kid to go into school, into pre-K. So dropping the age from 5 to 3, so a kid can be either 3 or 4 years old when they can go into school, as well as getting like 2 years of community college for free as well. So it's the 2 years would be 2 years in the beginning, and then giving them I don't know if it's optional or not, but having the opportunity to go to the community college for 2 years for free as well.
So what you're saying is 2 years prior to kindergarten, 2 years after 12th grade, senior year of high school.
Yeah.
Now, when you do these 2 years, is the associate's degree free?
Yeah, it's 2 years free schooling.
See, so I was having a conversation with one of my homeboys about this. The 16 years can work if, one, it's free. It's not some fucking horse shit coming out of your pocket. But there's got to be an end game benefit to it, right? You're doing 16 years of school. Well, that 6 years better come with some type of fucking college level degree where I don't have to still go to fucking college. Because if that's the case, you're going to see people actually stay in school more because they're going to be like, I'm going to get a college degree at the end of this. And it's free. You know what I mean? Also, for the pre-K shit, you got to think about parents who don't want to pay them high-ass daycares. Hey, I'm sending my little ass kid to school. They're going to be learning and stuff like that, being educated at an early age. Plus, we're saving mad money from the daycare. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure. No, I mean, for real.
I know. I mean, that's how I did the math. I mean, I have an opinion on it, but I know what you're saying.
So, like, yeah, the parent may still have to pay for before and after care or whatever, but that's a lot cheaper than paying for normal daycare. Normal daycare is not cheap, especially if you want your kid to be at a good daycare, like a safe environment, something where they actually teach the kids and not let them shit on themselves and all that. So
that's a fact.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. So like the 16 years thing, it sounds bad, but it can actually be really good if done correctly.
I think if you have kids in there and you have actual, like, you know, trained teachers for 3 to 5 year olds and actually like teaching them things, like maybe that's when you can fit in the second language that, you know, people actually want to learn, especially from that age. You know what I mean? Maybe you can, you know, get it in a little bit better. I think that, you know, it doesn't have to necessarily be a bad thing. It really all depends on how it's done, on how it's paid for. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it could actually take away a lot of issues for a lot of things if it's done right. My thing is, like, how it's implemented is very important, because if you implement it the wrong way, then it's worthless and actually could put us in like more trouble. But if you're giving us more preparation for the world, like maybe, you know, teaching us things that we actually could use, you know what I mean? I think it could be very beneficial. I mean, shit, the last 2 years could be like a trade of some type for people who choose, or something else. Like, we could actually use it to be very beneficial if it is used in the right way. If it's not, I would not be excited to hear about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's from the premise of it, the premise of the whole thing was to let people know, well, not to let people know, but from what I read was that he just doesn't, I guess as a country, from his perspective of the numbers that he's seen in terms of performance and education, we're not number one from what he's saying. So the idea is the younger that you put a child in school, the more likely they are to stay in school. They'll stay in school. There's a higher probability that the younger the child is, the longer they'll stay in school, because more than likely they'll have a better grasp of education at a younger age. Just because if you start a kid reading at 3 years old, like reading like books at 3 years old, he has a higher probability than a kid that doesn't start reading until he's 5 or 6, in some degrees, especially when we never know what the circumstances are for kids at home. Because ideally, his thing is to I guess make this benefit those that may not come from the most fortunate situations. So it gives them a chance to actually have more education. I mean, I think there's a lot more that will be seen based off, like you said, the implementation of it. But I do think it's good. I think it's a good thing, especially for childcare, like Lau was saying, because that stuff is super expensive. So I don't know. I think there's more to see from it. And I know he did mention like trade schools as well being another option. So there are possibilities of this working. I think we just have to wait and see. So,
oh man, you guys got anything you want to say?
Drink your water, wear your mask, sanitize, man. That's all I got to say. You know how I keep it. I keep it quick and short.
Listeners, I'm hot over here. I've been sweating for like the last half of the episode really bad. But I'm definitely happy that I'm here with my friends. You know what I mean? Like,
get that man some water, man.
Yeah, I might need some water for real. It's hot. Listeners, you know, we love and respect y'all. Like, you know, most of y'all. But it's like, you know, we're here for y'all. Like, doing a show. You know, we definitely appreciate everything.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. And before we get out of here, listeners, if you are listening to this and you want to hear more and keep in tune with us, please follow us on Instagram at Highly Advised Podcast, as well as on Twitter at Advised Highly. If you want to check us out and see it in the video format instead of just listening through your ears, always go check out our YouTube at the Highly Advised Podcast. And on top of it, just know if you aren't aware when we drop every Thursday. But trust me, if you follow the Instagram page, the Highly Advised Podcast, the Highly Advised Podcast, the Highly Advised Podcast, every week we give you new content, whether it's what's going on in the fighting world to when the new episode's coming out, along with some historical moments that's happening within in music and in sports. So as well as just other content. So keep yourself informed. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. Well, follow us on Instagram at the Highly Advised Podcast, Twitter, Advised Highly, and like I said, YouTube, the Highly Advised Podcast. With that being said, there's nothing else to be said.
No, I don't got a fucking thing to say. I just want to say, shouts out to me, shouts out to my family, and shouts out to myself. And I'll see myself next week on the podcast. So this is the Highly Advised Podcast.
Listeners,
you've been advised.
You've been highly advised. We'll see you next week. See you later.
You've been advised. Shashaw.